Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Off-Air Voiceover podcast. My name, of course, is Michael.
And I'm Jen.
And we are joined by two very special guests today, doing something slightly different that's not really done much on podcasts, which is why I'm super excited about it. We are joined by Rachel and Jonny from video production company Mighty Giant. How you doing, folks?
Woo.
Hello.
So, as we mentioned before, for the people that have been listening, so a lot of this season is all about casting, and the reason why we thought it would be excellent to speak to someone like yourselves with your experience of video production is because most voiceovers, they get a lot of work through, you know.
We're always contacting you.
Right, yeah, it's like, it's the bombardment. But I don't feel like it's really spoken enough about from your perspective. Like, what's it like from your side of the fence in terms of, you know, the production side, the timescales, the processes, how voice factors in, where you find your voices. I just think it'd be really interesting to learn more about that. So,
Definitely.
really, really grateful to you both for taking the time to come and chat to us and share some insights. So I guess before we get into it, do you want to both introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Rach, as we just said, and I'm producer, kind of / studio manager at Mighty Giant. I've been there for just coming up to 4 years now, and in kind of VO world, I am the predominant person doing the casting. So yeah,
so you're the one to butter up, is what you're saying, Rach?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely. Be nice.
Yeah, I agree. Send your emails to Rach, because she's got the power. So I'm Jonny. I'm the founder of Mighty Giant, and I've been there for 15 years, which is when we started. It's very kind of you to call us video production, Mikey. We're not quite as broad as that. I'd say we've got a niche, which is we're animation and motion design.
Yeah.
So we have done video, but interestingly, the fact that we are in that world probably makes it even more important because we rarely have an actor in front of the screen. So we work across all sorts, from sort of commercials through to brand films, and anything where you've got something complex that you want to explain, but you wanted to do it in a sort of engaging and a fun way.
Yeah, I saw on your website because you do like, obviously we've been working together on. Are we allowed to talk about Reg?
Yeah.
Right.
That's how we came about, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've been working with Rachel and Jonny for. Do you know? Actually, I saw on a spreadsheet yesterday. It was just a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah,
they were first touched base about. I cannot believe it. So basically, for those that don't know, Reg is an animated mascot created by Mighty Giant, and he's the mascot for Regency Glass, a company in is it Lee?
Yeah.
So I was chosen as the voice for it. It's just been such a great project to work on. But so from your perspective, like you say, you do a lot of motion design, 3D animation, all that sort of thing, and then obviously that, because I saw on the website before, like the advert for Dreams, the animated bed, etc. So it's
really cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So with all the animation stuff, so just talk us through generally how it works. So if somebody comes to you with a project, what's the typical process in terms of like how it starts? Do you have to design everything from scratch? You come up with all the animations, or do they give you a brief of what they want and you have to realise their ideas?
It varies a lot. I think because our unique kind of style is the fact that we don't have a style. We kind of do 3D, 2D, as Jonny was saying, stop motion, kind of varying different factors. And because of that, the briefs and the clients that come to us are different every time, kind of thing. Yeah. So we have a basic process structure, which is usually the briefing from the client. And then depending what they need, we kind of go into ideation, storyboards, mood boards, that kind of thing, building that visual style for them, and then getting into an animatic, which is pretty vital to us. An animatic really kind of sets the pacing, and it's the first time that they can see something moving. Right. And then we'll go into work in progress kind of rounds, and we do, again, depending on what the project is, we'll do a few different stages of work in process. And then just before we're thinking about doing the final renders and the final delivery, that's when we kind of bring together our audio mix, and we'll get that in front of the client so they can hear it as a full package before it gets finally delivered. So kind of in a nutshell, that's the general process. But because of our varying styles, it really, really depends on what the client wants and needs, really.
Yeah, and your style is very diverse. I think if you do have a look at your stuff, it is hugely different. And you see some companies who have a very distinct style, perhaps, and they kind of stick with it. Whereas yours, I think probably one of your strengths is obviously that you have so many different kinds.
Yeah.
It's all very tactile, though.
Yeah, it kind of came about sort of by deliberate accident in a way, that we sort
As
of...
the best things do.
Yeah, and just because we were starting to get such a diverse range of clients and then the skills that we had within the team. And also, as Rach was sort of hinting at there, that the projects that come in, we will get an ad agency come to us, and we're working on a short commercial now where the whole look's designed, everything's there. They just want us to sort of, make it move.
Okay.
And so the storyboard's done. And then you go to the other extreme, the job we've been doing with Mikey, where they come to us with just a very rough idea of, can we do this? And then we work all the way from the start and we design it, we create it, we come up with the whole thing. So as a result of that, we have to be very flexible. And therefore, we've deliberately sort of got different skills. We've got people who can really illustrate and animate. We've got people who are really good at 3D. And so, yeah, keeps it interesting.
Yeah,
you thinking about the Reg situation you just mentioned there with Reg. So when you design something like Reg, and you obviously use that as an example, but across the board, if it does need a voice, how do you do it? Like, because sometimes, I know it might sound daft, but how can I articulate this the correct way? Like, sometimes a voice will match a certain look of a character, if that makes sense. So which way around do you do it? Do you design the character and think of a voice that will match it, or do you think of a voice and think, okay, this character would suit that voice? Is there a process?
What would you say, Jonny? I have my thoughts.
I'm trying to think whether we've ever done it voice up. I think just because... Don't take this the wrong way. The voice is the easier bit to fix for us.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think designing the character, it's quicker. Yeah. And so I think, thinking of the Reg job that we did with you, for that we were designing it and we were sketching it. And then as we go through that process, I think people start to start to get a feel for it. And then as soon as you start to see it moving, that's when you start to go, right, what does this sound like?
Yeah. Reg is a rhino, isn't he?
Yeah. Reg is a rhino,
obviously.
A humanoid, upright rhino.
Yeah, he's great. Mike showed him. You're very proud of it. Yeah. And then you thought, who would really suit this character?
How many did we audition, Rach? Do you remember? Because I remember we put forward 3.
We did. So it's interesting casting and clients. Even if they've got a character, it's kind of a bit of an afterthought of what they're going to think of as a tone of voice, who that person's going to be, how they're going to sound. It's really interesting to me that doesn't kind of come up in the initial conversation. So it wasn't until later that we started talking about, specifically for the Reg job, about what Reg sounds like. And then it's kind of forcing a client to really think about that. They've got the kind of visual down. They go, oh, right, yeah, so how does he sound? I haven't really thought about that. So you have to kind of go, right, is he local? What does he do? You build a character profile like you would in anything, really. Yeah. In kind of that world, if you were writing a book or anything like that, it's not for the audience to know all that detail, but it's all that information that is vital for kind of building a character profile and casting that through. Yeah. So when I was looking into it, because that's what I did for Reg, I definitely looked into various different people. I think overall there was about 6 or 7 that kind of I shortlisted down. And then they kind of whittled it down to a top 3. And then I think what we did is we did specific demos for the actual scripts that they produced. Because I think that's another one. Clients can't really bridge that gap of imagination.
Yeah, that's quite common that they can't, even if they have to hear those words specifically with the actor.
Well, I mean, I always say that whenever I get auditions and stuff. Inquiries. I had one yesterday, and the question was, can you send us any pieces of work that you think, and which is strange because they've come off my website, so everything's there anyway, but they tend to ask, can you send us some pieces of work you think would fit? And I say, yeah, fine, here you go. But I always say, if you've got a segment of your script, send it over, because there's no other better way of figuring out what it'll be like on the project without just doing a demo read.
I think you're right. And I think most voice actors, if you look on the website, will say, like, we offer a free demo, because it is really helpful, I think, for clients to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. It does make a difference. Even if you've got a portfolio and you've got extensive examples on your website, they're just going to hear it as that one thing. And I think what's different about a bit more what we do in our world is that it's not radio, it's not commercial, it's not that tone of voice at all. They usually we're looking at kind of, I don't know, brand campaigns, social stuff, and they're looking for a more conversational aspect, friendly, trustworthy kind of stuff. And that's what they want to hear. And if they can hear that with a demo of their script that they're writing, all the better, definitely.
So even like for other campaigns like the Dreams commercial and stuff, are you both required to pick the voice as well, or do you have other people that sometimes provide the voice for the campaign that you're doing?
That one was the ad agency. So so that's an example of where we come in further down the chain. So we were brought in just for the animation parts of that. So the voice was done by another agency who were then referring up to the ad agency. So sadly, we were, well, probably a good thing because that was a complex job. But we weren't involved in that part of it there. So I thought, sorry, I thought you were going to say something. So like going back to what you're saying then, Rachel, about the Reg thing or choosing characters. So if you've done a casting, have you ever had it before where, I don't know, you've a voice has sort of been agreed, things have gone further down the line with the motion design, and then just something's not clicked, something needs to be changed?
Yes, kind of. So on a previous project that we did not so long ago, they had thought about what they wanted. So it wasn't a character that they were doing. We were doing a kind of product launch for them, but it was raising brand awareness overall for this new launch. And they wanted, again, they brought up a kind of VO and audio later down the line, but he had a very strong idea about what that tone of voice should be. And he was adamant that that's what it should be. And I did a lot of casting around it. I always try and throw in a bit of a wild card to see whether I can change their mind a little bit, because sometimes I wonder if they thought differently, especially as we're creating the visuals, that this might actually suit a different kind of style or tone of voice. He wasn't persuaded to go in a different direction, so we went with this particular casting, and we didn't end up changing the casting, but the actual recordings and those recording sessions were really hard work to get through. And I think actually the step that was missing, and that would have kind of alerted us to a few issues prior to getting in there, would have been like any director does on set, on film, where they kind of have that time to get to know their artist a little bit better and had that rapport with them before going into a session. And I think that's kind of key and vital, especially for a bigger project, a brand kind of campaign where you're setting a tone of voice and trustworthy style. You really want to make sure that voice that is carrying that video through is doing the job for you. So you need to set up that time with an artist to talk that through. And so whoever's directing you on those calls can give you that little bit of nudge, that little bit of direction that's going to make the difference and get that performance out of you. So I think that's what was missing. We didn't end up changing the casting at all. We got there in the end, but the process was a lot more difficult because we hadn't done that, I think, in the beginning.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, and I think I personally, but I think it's shared by lots of voiceovers, would exactly the same thing. I think it's a human thing as well, that it's just having those moments where it's you just touching base, but particularly when you're being directed by somebody or you're trying to create something together and you don't know the person, you save a lot of time by just finding that language and you're able to communicate then changes that needed to be made. Really interesting to hear you say that.
Where do you tend to get your voices from? Like, do you have like a short list of ones you tend to go back to, or do you tend to do you go finding people's websites or social media, or how does it work?
How does it work? So yeah, I get contacted a lot, and I do I do save those, and I have a little spreadsheet.
Voiceover artists are absolutely prolific.
They
So
are.
my inbox is about 50% voiceover artists.
Oh my word!
But we don't, it's good, because then we've got Rach collects them. So yeah.
But this is the interesting
Collect
thing
them all.
because I think on a percentage basis, as an industry, I think a lot of us know that. I know the term video production is quite a broad one, but you very much would fall within the category of people who produce content. So, like I say, it's animations, corporate videos, explainers, TV commercials, and we know the vast majority of those top types of companies get the bulk of the marketing. So that's an interesting point you've made then, Jonny, because so when you do get that barrage, it's another voiceover. Is there I don't know, are there any do's and don'ts you can help share with people just from your perspective?
Please.
This is what I'd really love if you did do this or didn't do this.
We want to be
etc.
less annoying. We want to be, because
Correct.
obviously we do need each other, but it's like, how do we do it in the least annoying way?
Okay, it's interesting. So I think it's different. Timing is one thing. So if you're sending me your portfolio, I might not listen to it there and then if I'm not casting at that particular moment in time. What would be handy to know is what your setup is. If you do demos, if you're kind of willing to speak to directors, artists, have those sessions beforehand to build up that rapport. I want to know a bit more about you, the human, the artist, and whether you're, a great artist, a person to work with flexibility and adaptability, because more and more clients want that. They want to know who they're working with, and they want to hear those demos before, as I mentioned before, kind of thing, and they want to dial in sessions and direct. So I'm always looking for the entire package and the entire experience, not necessarily just the voice, because sometimes the portfolio won't match exactly what the client brief is. But if I can work with you to kind of establish a bit of a setup between us before we get to that stage, all the better. If I can work with you, that's great.
I think also look at who you're targeting, because I was just looking at the last 6 or 7 emails I've had through from voiceover artists this morning. Yeah. But some of them will just list all of their top clients, and I get it. You're trying to sort of persuade, and verify who you are. But when you throw in major international brands at a company like us, I'm not as interested in that. I'm interested in what Rach was saying about who you are. If I could see a video of, you, Jen, in your booth recording something, so I see a bit more of who you are, and, even if it's a directly personal piece, a little sort of thing where you're sort of speaking to us, that will make it jump out.
Really? That's really
interesting.
Rather than seeing a whole list of I'm the voice of Pepsi and I'm the voice of this. For us, for some big ad agencies, it might be different, but we are. You look at the company you're aiming at and then target at their sort of clients, I think.
So I think that's the key takeaway there is, just make it as personable as possible, because you do see these bits of advice that come out from marketing gurus, and it's not just for voiceover, I suppose it's across the board. It shouldn't be an email if you're reaching out, and it shouldn't be about me, I. It's about how you can, make the person you're reaching out to, make sure it's what you can do for them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing you said there about sort of the way you can deliver it, even if it was like I don't know, was it a link to a little video introducing yourself or something like that? That's something I'm doing on my website at the moment. It's just a little, when they come onto the website, there'll be a little video of a minute long that they can play. It's like, hey, how you doing? This is me, etc. It's just try and break that barrier down a little bit. You know what I mean?
I think the flip side of it is that we are, that's really nice and encouraging to hear. It feels like that is not always the case. And I think we are advised by a lot of people to keep it really brief, because you guys are really busy and it's just the really salient details. And I think, so you kind of think, I should be doing that. Whereas I would want to work with people that I like as well, ideally, who are nice and you can build that rapport with. And I think it's kind of nice to know that you want the same things. But I do wonder how much of the industry wants that and not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why it's one size doesn't fit all, really.
No,
Because
exactly.
for us, that works for us because we're a
Yeah.
smaller studio,
Yeah.
and we will work on global brands,
Yeah.
but when we're working on that, we probably don't pull the strings on the voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Okay.
we do have control of the voice, it will be on the smaller projects.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get similar to you. We get a lot of composers coming through to us,
Ah.
and we get a lot of music people come to us, and we're like, well, we do sometimes use music, and we can sometimes compose it, but on the massive jobs where the money's there, that's probably in somebody else's budget. So we're not gonna
Okay.
control that side of it.
Yeah. What about situations when you are working on a project? Is there what's like a defined? Because you see some projects where there's no voiceover at all, and it's just goes with the visuals and the audio. Obviously, I don't really understand. I don't have the creative side for what you both do. So, what kind of leads that sort of thing? Is there some projects you just think just no one speak, just let the visuals do all the work, or are there some projects where you've done that and you thought a good voiceover would have completed that? Is that everything?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is defined by where it's used. So, if you don't need words, we don't put words on it.
Yeah, just going to say, just to clarify, when I said a good voice would have completed it, what I meant was, from your opinion, if a client said we don't want one, and you thought it would have sounded good on this product, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's but it's when the visuals will do the job without a voice.
Yeah.
Where the story tells itself. You don't need somebody to explain it. Or in our case, when we do a lot of the motion design stuff, where there's a lot of text on screen anyway, and that's doing the job. Or we've done our own films where you kind of want just the music and the visuals to carry it, and a voiceover. It doesn't need a script like that. But there will be jobs where you look at it, and you can get quite far into the creative process, and you think you're not going to have a voice, and then part of the way along, you'll just go, "This just doesn't work." We need a voice over this that will hammer this message home, that will explain it, and then we will change and we'll pivot. Then we'll bring a voice in at that point.
It's a bit like the John Lewis adverts at Christmas. Like every year, they generally don't come out with a voiceover, and I think they're excellent as they are. They're always quite thought provoking and moving, but they do sometimes wonder if there was like a Morgan Freeman-esque type voice to lead a certain type of advert, whatever it may be. Well, what difference would it make? You know what I mean? But I was just always curious what that thing is, because obviously with these sorts of pieces of work, so story driven, and there's a narrative. The not having a voice on certain occasions, what difference could or couldn't it have made? But I guess that's the trust in the what you're producing. You know what I mean? Like you said, if the actors, the music carry everything, it doesn't need anything else, and you can just get absorbed and lost into it. For what it actually is. You know what I mean?
Sometimes now, with it being at events or on social, you can't have a voice on it because people aren't going to be listening to it.
Yeah.
So you've got to design it in a way where a voice isn't needed, because the conventional ways of doing things on TV, or everything being on TV, those are gone. People are now viewing on phones, and it needs to convey, which sadly often means slapping subtitles on as well. So
yeah, I think both is good. Yeah.
Are you seeing any sort of changes in trends in terms of like TV advertising? Because we spoke to somebody not a lot long ago saying that like viewership on traditional TV seems to be like plummeting. So spending on TV commercials is having a knock-on effect, and now it's adverts are being repurposed for social media, short form, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Are you both seeing that sort of thing, or?
I think it varies. We're not kind of ones who are doing the market research in that area kind of thing, but we still have inquiries about TV commercials, but it's less frequent work than we do with other things like product launches or social. We have a lot of social. But yeah, it is one of those things where you see that it is declining more and more and more, definitely. But we're not in the data of it. Can't give you hard facts on that one.
So it's the same as me. Like,
just your perspective.
Looking at like sort of over the last, 12, 18 months, for the amount of stuff that is now so much more geared towards the socials as opposed to TV. Like beforehand, it was about probably 40-60, 40 TV, 60 socials. Now it's like 20-80. and it's getting more. But again, if not many people are watching TV because everyone's on Netflix and whatnot, and TV adverts cost thousands and thousands, then it's inevitably going to have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, I mean, they're still there, aren't they? And I think it's about the targeting though as well, like with the Sky Ad Smart and stuff. It's just very hyper-focused to certain audiences as well. They're so drilled down in terms of the marketing, which some of it blows my mind about how specific they can get to the individual who's watching it, which, I mean, it creeps me out but also amazes me, I think, as well, about what's possible. Sorry, Jonny.
No, I don't mind that hyper targeting, because it means that what you're doing is it's relevant. You're not just spreading the net as far as you can. And I do think the budgets are still out there. We found that with the Dreams campaign, that they're still willing to go for big showpieces, but we're also doing a lot more, vertical 6-12-second pieces, where we know that isn't going to see TV.
Yeah.
But there's still a decent budget in that because they know that their audience is moving to that.
And I think it's then it requires different skill set, doesn't it? That you're obviously then, learning at some point, but also then, how do you utilise that and how do you change what you do for that? New challenges are good sometimes, aren't they? Can I ask, sorry, Michael.
No, it's okay.
I was going to go back to the casting a little bit. So you've obviously been inundated by these voice actors. Very practically, what do you think about attachments? Yay or no?
Like Friends, so some of them come and go.
So like physical attachments and emails and things like that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get that joke, so I was just looking a bit clueless then if anyone was like silent. An attachment onto the email, like for a demo, for example.
For a demo. I mean, I don't mind it. That's fine. If it's not the standard portfolio, but if it's kind of, here's me in my home studio and this is how I work. This is a few outtakes of this recent job kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Something that will catch my attention that isn't usual kind of thing, then absolutely send it over. It's fine. Okay,
bro. It's just some people hate them, that's why I'm asking.
Well, to be fair, I never send them because a lot of companies have spam filters on.
Yeah, that's apparently.
So if you send an email to someone for the first time with an MP3 attached, you'll usually never sees the light of day. So I just send the link. But then if you send a link, you're asking someone to, do more work essentially. And
trust that it's like not some dodgy thing, like if you're a randomer. Exactly. Yeah. Click on my YouTube link.
Absolutely.
Are you? Yeah.
So you've got this amazing people voice actors, and then you are keeping them, you said, Rachel?
Yes.
Storing them somewhere?
Storing them in my little filing spreadsheet. So we have a bit of a process in terms of freelancers. So we're a small studio, as Jonny said. Mm-hmm. For bigger projects, we scale up, and it's always good to have a bunch of freelancers that we can work with that have the skill set and will help us out on projects. So I don't know if this happens for every studio, but I will take the time to kind of collate all those emails and those inquiries that come through and have a little look through, and I will send them out to our creative directors for us to review at certain points.
Okay.
To see whether it's something that we think that is the kind of skill set level that we would look for, that we would employ, and keep them on record for as and when we need them. So it's less time consuming exercise for when that client comes along and says, right, I need X, Y, and Z for these things. Yeah. And we have a kind of collated pool network that we can call upon, and then it's down to filtering it out, determined on what the brief is.
Bro.
But there is, as I said, in terms of casting in kind of new people, that's why I'm saying attachments is fine and stuff. I'm getting to know my client, and that is a relationship that I'm building there.
Yeah.
I also need to know about the artist that I put in front of them. So it's not just necessarily about the voice, it's whether I think the client will be able to work with them and get what they want from them. So I'm looking for something slightly different, I suppose. It's not just about the end product.
Yeah. So much is about the relationships, isn't it? Especially if it's a brand voice and you've got that, you are building that relationship and you're working together multiple occasions as well. And you are an extension, aren't you, of the company for all intents and purposes.
We spoke about this on the last episode with Emily. Some people just, we were talking about how it's important that, being easy to work with is like a universal necessity. And she was saying, there are some people that quite diva-ish, they make it difficult to work with them. I mean, even if they're really talented, but having this sort of quite diva-like attitude, it just kind of, I can't work with you. You know, you're just too difficult. And I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why some people have that self-entitlement to that degree. But I mean, yeah, like obviously from your perspective, you know, like you just said, you're not going to work with people that you look for people that are easy to work with, you know, for the obvious reasons. So
you've been a bit of a diva there, Mike.
Well, you know, I am rich, so.
Rach has got some proper swagger, hasn't he? So I reckon, yeah.
I have honestly. Go.
No, I think you know, it's harsh when you're sending out these emails that you're maybe not getting replies all the time. But the one thing I would say is that pretty much all freelancers that send something into us of, you know, animation, 3D, voice, anything like that, we do store them, and we do, you know, bookmark them, we put them into our database, and then when the opportunity comes, we then go back in and just go, right, who matches this criteria?
That's
Also,
really nice.
equally, we do like to build relationships, so I would rather have a freelancer or a voiceover artist who can adapt to what we need and we like working with them, than go through that process of going out and picking, you know, people new every single time, because we know, having worked with you, Mikey, that, you know, we could just fire it off. We know we'll get this, we know we'll get that. We're comfortable with that. Same with a lot of our freelancers we've used for years repeatedly.
Yeah, I think that's I agree. I think it's, you know, and it goes both ways, to be fair, as well. I've always had a really positive working relationship with you, so yeah, it absolutely goes both ways. It's, you know, I think when you find that, I think for, like, especially in our line of work, I mean, for all of us, like as creatives, when you do have a good working relationship, I just feel like it makes the whole creative process so much easier.
Yeah.
It really does, because you've not got these hurdles to jump over. It's like, you know, and it's the stress of, can they do it? Will they do it? Will it be on time? Etc. Etc. Once it just clicks, everything just gets a little bit easier, you know.
And I don't want to go on too much about the Rhino, but we have to sort of say that comes from the top down. That comes from the client as well. So the client had been amazing to us and allowed us to, you know, therefore everybody who's come into that project has benefited from that.
Yeah. I'm just conscious of the time, because I know Jonny said you have to go in about 20 minutes.
Can I ask one final thing about casting then? Just
no,
about.
Sorry, no, it's just.
Oh, sorry. Is it that time?
I'm saying yeah.
It's that time. It's time for Voiceover of the Week. Okay, this week. All right, that'll do. Okay, this week it's my turn. So, through looking around on the socials today, I came across a piece of work which I just loved. Now, obviously, for those of you who are listening to this, you'll hear it, but I think if you can go onto YouTube and watch this, it will just sort of bring it all together. So this week for me, my voiceover of the week is Mr. Phil Rowe. Phil, you've done a great piece of work in the video game Out of Sight. And when you listen to this, folks, as I say, if you watch it, it kind of pulls it together. Phil really encapsulates this evil bad guy. And in the scene that's in this game, he's chasing after these two little girls that are trying to escape. I wouldn't say it's like a haunted house, but it's got a really creepy atmosphere to it. And what I've done is I've clipped together this scene, which was about a minute and a half. I've done it into like 25 seconds, but just to try and give you an idea. So, Phil, you are my voiceover of the week. I think this performance is excellent. It really does a great job of capturing the mood. And this is what it sounds like.
There's nowhere to hide, Sophie. I built this house with my own hands. Don't make this any more difficult. And who's this? Your little friend? Well, he's gonna get you. Come back here, you weasel.
There we go. So, Phil, I loved it. And that, like I said, that's just a segment of it. But the whole clip that you put on social media, I just think you did an excellent job, and it really captured the mood. So well done, Phil.
Yeah, well done, Phil. Excellent and horrifying.
Yeah.
I will not be watching.
Terrifying.
Oh, God, it's awful.
Honestly, that laugh is what cemented it. When he did that laugh, I was like, absolutely jackpot.
I'm actually a bit traumatised. I feel like we need some kind of trigger warning before you show these things, Michael. Well done, Phil.
So, yeah,
really
so
good.
That was, so well done, Phil. So, Jen, you were going to mention something. There's something I wanted to latch onto at the end, but go on to something you were going to say.
Yeah, just about casting as well. So you've obviously talked about your amazing list of freelancers. If you feel like something comes up and you don't have what you want on your list already, like how do you go out and find it? Where'd you go? What's your process?
I will literally kind of Google it. I will look into people who have home studios, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's a top requirement. And
can I just ask you one quick question there? Just on that, when people say I have a home studio, have you then received recordings that would suggest otherwise? Is that a thing?
No, not yet.
That's all right.
God,
that never happens. No one's recording in their car on their phone. No, I was joking.
No, it does.
I'm
joking.
joking.
Some people say that they've got all the bells and whistles, and then they get a recording, and it's not quite.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it does happen. I'm just curious. That's a positive then.
Good.
Happen,
yeah. And I will. It is a time-consuming exercise, but definitely worth it. To get what you need. But I will trawl the internet. I will listen. And listen. To see if I can get a variety across the spectrum of what the client is after. And as I said, I'll try and throw in a little wild card in there if I think that the visual is kind of suggesting something that they may have not thought of. I might then put it to our creative directors to kind of go, shall we shortlist some of these? What are we thinking? I'm happy to go back to the drawing board and go, right, none of that's working. Let's try and hone down.
We have used agencies on occasion, haven't we?
We have used agencies on occasion, I think there's a less of a...
Less so now. Yeah.
Less so now.
Yeah.
Do you find
it for costing reasons?
Yeah. And are you ever going out on socials and things and putting out ads or like posts or anything? Or
no, I'm not, for the fear of being.
Yeah, and you will be absolutely inundated. Yeah,
the inevitable bombardment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you find it from when you have worked with agencies? Do you prefer working just directly with your own talent, finding them, and then just building your own relationship?
Yeah, it is for the relationship reason as well for me as well. Definitely, I have a bit more control over that process. So it suits me. It suits the client usually for a bit more flexibility and a bit more control. The agents are definitely there, and they're a good thing to have them involved sometimes in that process, safeguarding both the artist and us. So I can definitely see the need for them, but clients are less and less willing to kind of go down that route, I find.
Yeah. And sorry, Michael, one last thing, and then I will promise to let you talk.
Right,
and I just want to ask a follow-on question from that. And are you finding that that's largely to do with budgets as well, from the client's perspective?
Yes, I would say that's a definite factor. It's not all the factor, but it's a consideration for sure.
Okay.
One of my final things was just my favourite subject, AI. So I always talk. Obviously, again, every episode this comes up, but it's because it's somebody else's perspective, opinion, and different sort of line of work. So, from your perspective, like, are you integrating AI into your workflow, or is it? Do you find it are you worried about it? Are you bothered about it? Like, what do you think?
AI, it's a confusing time, isn't it, Jonny? I'm going to let you speak about this one.
We've had AI for years, really, in some form or other. We're using machine learning on various ways like rotoscoping backgrounds or tracking shots. So it's all using some sort of AI. It's changing our work in terms of what we get from clients as requests. So we will get very, very rough ideas sent through, which are clearly just smashed out on Mid-Journey and things like that. Like we literally had one a couple of days ago. Right, we want it to look like this, but not like this. And because obviously the prompts won't get it to where they actually want it to look like, so it's then our job to take it from there, which is a good and a bad thing. I think it sort of gets us down the track quicker. I was going to say we have used AI voiceover, and we used it on one of our internal projects, and I think the experience we had with that is similar to the experience that I think you generally get with AI. Is it almost took us so long to get the AI to read the bits we wanted right that by the end of it, as an experiment, by the end of it, you're almost thinking, right, should we just get a voiceover artist to do this? It's and obviously that will get better and better, but I think, I think we're at an interesting time where the length of time it takes to get up to speed and understand the AI versus the benefits you get from it. There will be things which it'll be useful for. There's things where I think we'll have to revert back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm finding now that for a lot of jobs that I get through, which are explainer videos, corporate videos, now most of them come with an AI scratch VO, which wasn't a thing 6 to 8 months ago. Now most of them do. And I think for me, I always bang on about it. I'm not concerned about it. Like, listen back to what Phil just did a minute ago. AI could not do that to the full extent he's done it. That depth of emotion, and obviously, that was only a segment. It goes on more. So I think that what I'm finding is that there becomes a balance now where companies are using it as a scratch audio to get an idea of what it could sound like. But then, like you just mentioned there, that those nuances that you're looking for, like, you can't direct AI. You can get a track laid down, but if you want an inflection changing on a certain word, this is where you start having problems. So, and I think that's where you'll find a balance where I think the two will eventually coexist, and the hysteria will die down a little bit. It's like I did a video this morning. Did it last week. It came out this morning. This guy, he writes his own little short stories, like horror themed, and where he wanted to try and animate them or whatever, he couldn't do it. Now he uses AI software to animate these like 2-minute little videos, and then he gets real voiceovers to tell the story. And I think that's kind of a good use of it, because it was something that was otherwise out of his grasp. And it's for personal use, so he's not trying to make TV commercials out of it. And I thought that is a good use case. It's somebody able to make something creative out of their own thought process. And I suppose really on a bigger scale. But then you see the other one where there's some companies who are doing AI TV commercials, all AI. And if you look at the comments when it's uploaded to YouTube, my word, they get absolutely roasted.
And I think, you've really talked about connecting with voice actors or freelancers and getting to know those people, and about how, for like brand voices in particular, it's about that personality and about the person. And I think this is what you just don't get with the AI, or, it's, and clients are wanting the conversational person, so people buy into what they trust and they buy from people. Yeah. So, I've always said that, because I think for the types of work where, if you're trying to create something which has like a deep connection or deep meaning to it, I find it, for some brands, if they decide to then go for an AI voice, I kind of feel like you're breaking that connection a little bit. Yeah, because if you're trying to create a deep-rooted story and then get an AI voice that doesn't resonate very well, the two don't coexist. You know what I mean? But I suppose, like I said, this is now, fast forward 3 years' time, it could be a different landscape, but I just always find it interesting to see, because there is so much hysteria about it, and obviously, different from all creative points of view, how it's going to affect and how it integrates, etc. It's always interesting hearing other people's perspectives on it. But
I think your John Lewis example earlier that you were saying about the Christmas ads, there was a famous one they did with a bear in a few years ago, which was all hand cut frame by frame, and you couldn't tell when you watched it. It looked like conventional animation, but they did a lot of behind the scenes. They released a lot of social content. Everybody loved the craft of it. That's what everybody bought into. I think there's a bigger story of people want to know that people are involved in it. Yeah. I think if a big brand starts to automate, at the moment they'll use AI because AI is the thing. Yeah. And they want the story that they're using AI. Will that come full circle that people will start to turn off from brands that are using that because they want the people involved?
I think so.
I think that's going to happen. I also think as an industry, we're a couple of years off having a major sort of conversation about what the next generation are going to be working on and how they're coming through. How are the juniors going to learn their craft, and how are they going to come through without taking that out of the pipeline. Yeah. So that's down the tracks.
Well, like I was saying before about when there was the first one that came to mind about the AI advert was a company called eToro, like one of these crypto platforms, and they did an AI. They still actually have one on TV now. This full AI only advert, and the comments, every single one was like overwhelmingly negative. And I suppose really that's where my thought process came from. That if you're pushing a form of content that the public generally don't like, this is why I think it'll go full circle, because there will come a point when content, let's just say, for example, it does start to go more in that direction. When human-made content starts to be seen, and it resonates so much more. People, I think, when I say people, like they're different species, myself included, like you gravitate more to that because it resonates more. And it has more, like, oomph to it. You know what I mean? I think that is the point. I think the hysteria, people jumping on the bandwagon, and then eventually there could be a point where it's like, actually, you know what, this is actually pretty shit. And then you see a decent advert, and it's human-made, and everything that goes with it. And exactly like you said, John, I think the human process, the creative process that goes into it, I think that will be so much more profound that eventually it'll be like, actually, you're putting no effort into this at all. It's an AI voice, it's AI graphics, it's everything AI. There's no connection here. And then somebody who goes in a different direction, I think that will stand out so much more, and then you'll start to potentially see a balance shift.
Yeah. We're all looking for the oomph, anyway.
Exactly. We do need to let you go, but one last question, if that's okay, just about what's next then for you guys. What are you excited about? What's coming up on your agendas? Anything that you can share, anyway.
I know, how much can we say? I don't know.
What's next? I mean, the beauty is we never really know what's next. It's we just had an inquiry in a couple of days ago where we're doing some really fun sort of social animations for a food brand, and we've got our own internal project that we'll be working on. We normally try and do one of those over the summer, so that's not normally quite good fun. Whether it has a voice or not, we don't know yet. But what about you, Rach? What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? I think we've recently done a few different various projects, so it's nice to have a bit more variety into the schedule at the moment. And we're doing a lot more kind of R&D and being quite playful within the team at the moment as well, which is nice. Yeah. We're doing some learning stuff, which only makes kind of then client focus work stronger going down the line. And then I think also there will always be Reg time as well.
Yeah, more Reg. More Reg time.
I heard. I'm very looking forward. I don't know. I've not been privy to any of the information, but I heard something's on the horizon. So yeah, I'm excited.
Watch this space.
Well, listen, honestly, thanks so much for your time. I know we think we've timed it actually pretty well. So yeah, this one, really appreciate you both taking the time out. There's been loads of great information, particularly when you said about how to contact and do's and don'ts, etc. It's not talked about enough, so that will be very useful. Really appreciative. And also
expect loads of personal videos coming your way.
Can't wait.
Look forward to them.
Let the barrage commence.
It was so nice to meet you both.
Yeah, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, no
thanks
problem.
for having us on.
It's Friday, so enjoy your weekend, whatever you get up to, and no doubt I'll speak to you both in due course anyway.
Will do.
All right, folks, take care now.